Welcome to another Hero Arts video. Today I'm going to show you how to create this fun Intaglioed tag book. Intaglio is an Italian word that means that a design is incised or engraved into a material. So I'll try to tilt the tag so that you can see what I mean by engraved into. It's kind of subtle, like hard to tell there. You can kind of see that one. And this one was done with the DesignBlock flourish. You can kind of see that. And then this last one was done with another DesignBlock. So that's what we're going to be making. So I thought I'd start off by talking a little bit about the tags that I used to create the book. These are just ordinary shipping tags like you could get at an office supply store. And then I used the Distress Ink by Ranger to create this look. Basically, all you do is take a tag and crumple it up. Make sure you get lots of good creases in there. And then unfold it and rub it with the ink. Then spray it with the water mist bottle and iron it out. And then this is what you get. I love to make big batches of these so I have them to use. And the instructions are also right on the back of the ink pad too. As an alternative, Hero Arts also has this bag of tags or these clear acetate tags that you could use to make your book. So now let's talk a little bit about chipboard. You need to have some kind of chipboard to do this technique. Hero Arts has these hearts for stamping that work perfectly. But if you don't have those, you could get recycled chipboard from like a cereal box or other places and cut your own, or you could purchase some at the store. I'm not sure who makes these. My sister gave them to me. Thanks, Chris. Okay, let's get started. Punch out your heart from the frame that it comes in and then save the frame for later. Here's a little trick I picked up for putting ink on chipboard. Put some repositionable adhesive on the back and then tack it to a piece of scrap paper. This way when you put the ink on, your fingers won't get all messy. You can use any kind of ink that you like for this project. Here I'm using pigment ink, but you could also use dye ink or chalk ink. Just make sure you get a nice even application. Now I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. Okay, now we're on to the next step, which is embossing. I like to use the sparkle embossing powder from Hero Arts, and I keep it in an old Tupperware container to make it easy to put on. Next, you're going to need Versamark ink. Versamark is a really great ink for embossing because it's clear, and you can just go ahead and put it on top of any ink that you've already put on your chipboard. And then since you have that repositionable adhesive in there, you can kind of use that to dip your chipboard piece into the embossing powder. The next step is to go ahead and melt the embossing powder with your heat gun or heat tool. And I'm going to turn the volume really down so you don't have to hear that because it's really loud. And I just love doing this because it's so neat watching it melt on there. So just go ahead and finish that up. There it is. That looks good. And then you're going to want to repeat this step probably about 3 or 4 more times until it gets a nice sheen to it. You can see the first application is really kind of bumpy. But after you've done it a few more times, you'll see it starts to get really smooth and shiny, and that's how you know you're getting close. So after you've done this a few times, you'll know if you need 4 times or 5 times total. But this one is just about ready to go. The next step is to take the stamp that you're going to be using to make your engraving part and ink it really well with the Versamark ink. This will let it easily release from the embossing powder. Then I'm going to go ahead and set that aside until we're ready to press it into our hot embossing powder in our last step. So let's go ahead and add one more application here of the embossing powder. And the goal is you want it to be kind of nice and thick. So I'm going to leave some of that extra powder right on there, and it'll melt in just fine along with the rest of it. So you can see now it's like a really thick layer, and that's what you want, so that then when you press the stamp into the design, it shows up really well. And not to worry if it doesn't work out, because you can always come back in and remelt it with your heat tool. And I wanted to say too, DesignBlock stamps work really great for this technique because you don't have to worry about lining things up. You can just take your stamp and then go ahead and press it right on there. Okay, that seems good. Now for the hardest part of this whole technique. You should let the stamp sit there until the embossing powder cools for probably about 10 to 20 seconds, a little bit longer if you can stand it, so that you know that the embossing powder is all cool. So now about 20 to 30 seconds have passed, and let's see what we have. There it is! Ta-da! And here's one last little tip. If you have any rough edges, you can use your scissors to just trim them right off. And here's a finished tag book again, so that you can see what it looks like all put together. Hope I've inspired you to try this technique, and thanks for watching.